What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. So, the Secretary of the Navy just got fired by Donald Trump in the middle of a Navy conflict/war. Make that one make sense. The person in charge of the Navy, all right, obviously had an acrimonious altercation with Donald Trump, maybe because he was unqualified to do the job and he didn't know what he was doing, and he was forced to thrust the, United States Navy into a war, when this guy never even served in the military, don't have any experience, has nothing to do with the Navy or any naval history. He's just a rich white dude who got the job because another rich white dude gave him a job. Well, now these rich white dudes are just fighting back and forth. And in the middle of a Navy war, for all intents and purposes, you fire the Navy Secretary, who, by the way, wasn't qualified anyway, should have been there. Yeah, the Trump administration is most definitely imploding, and we're watching it happen. People are getting fired left and right. And this might be the first white dude that got fired, because most of the time is a woman. Like some goddamn woman getting fired. It's almost like the white supremacists in the White House, like supreme white supremacists, is doing everything he can not to fire any of the other supreme white supremacists, rich white dudes. Like they started off with the women. Even with the Epstein files, only a woman got in trouble. I mean, the prince in England, he got in trouble because he got caught. I mean, his shit was everywhere. They didn't care about him. But only a woman is in jail, okay? When we know this massive organization that had hundreds of participants, maybe thousands of participants. And we know for sure most of the rich white dudes, right? But only women. And in this administration that nobody is, qualified to be running, only women have gotten fired. This is the first dude, all right? This is the first guy. He's like, when we talk white supremacy, is rich white male supremacy. Let's be detailed. Rich white male supremacy, and even the rich white women, right? If they don't fall in line, guess what? They're the first to get thrown under the bus. They're the first. White women will always be the first to get thrown under the bus. But right now, a rich white man who bought a position he had no business being in, just got fired, because he was forced to conduct a war. See, it's all good when you're playing. But you see, I'm saying, in real life, everything's not a game. And as you can see, these non-serious people in our administration are, because of their criminal unqualification, their criminal ineptitude, their criminal ignorance, their criminal racism, misogyny, affluenza, this is legitimately the Twilight Zone, guys. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about this in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Secretary of the Navy John Phelan is out after just 13 months in a move that many sources say came directly from President Trump. Now, his appointment to be the Secretary of the Navy was not without controversy. He had no Navy experience, no military or shipbuilding, nothing that when you look at the guy you think he should be in charge of the Navy. His background was in finance, and his political contributions were brought up multiple times during his confirmation hearings. Notably, his donation of nearly $1 million to President Trump and his affiliated groups in 2024. Still, during his tenure, he made some pretty big moves, like canceling the Constellation-class frigate program, which was way over budget and behind schedule, and he also pushed ahead the Marines' medium landing ship program, which is essential for their EBO doctrine in the Pacific and really anywhere else. Replacing him is Navy Undersecretary Hung Kao, a retired Navy captain, which is an 06, so that's a colonel in every other branch. This comes amid a lot of turmoil in the Pentagon, with Army Chief of Staff Randy George recently being fired, and a lot of other senior positions. So to keep up with all this, go to taskandpurpose.com or follow us right here. And that's all I got for this morning's update from the swamp. Swamp's great today, beautiful today. Just take a look. Beautiful. We'll see y'all next time.
Resign or get fired. Those are the two options that sources tell CNN Navy Secretary John Phelan was presented with before his immediate departure from the role was announced on Wednesday by the Pentagon. Now, this comes as the U.S. Navy is conducting a blockade on Iranian ports during a tenuous ceasefire in the war between the two countries. Now, it's not immediately clear what led to the departure of Phelan, his ouster, at this particular moment. Multiple sources have said that Phelan has clashed with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth for months over a variety of issues. And while it remains unclear which issue finally broke the camel's back, the reality is that Donald Trump will now have to find a new permanent Navy secretary as the service continues to conduct operations around the world.
With a fragile ceasefire in place and with the U.S. enforcing a naval blockade of Iranian ports, Navy Secretary John Phelan is out, effective immediately. Before taking the job just 13 months ago, Phelan was a Florida businessman and a major donor to President Trump's campaigns. He had never served in the military.
John Phelan is one of the most successful businessmen in the country, in our country. It's been a tremendous success.
NBC News learned tensions between Phelan and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had been mounting, according to multiple sources familiar with the relationship. The approach Phelan was taking when it came to shipbuilding appears to have been the main reason for the firing, multiple sources say. Replacing him as acting head of the Navy will be Undersecretary Hung Cao, a combat veteran who ran unsuccessful campaigns for the House and Senate in Virginia.
Hey guys, just wanted to get y'all's input. Is it bad when the Navy Secretary either leaves or gets fired abruptly in the middle of the country fighting a war, primarily at this point using naval power? Just wanted to check if that's one of those bad things that we should worry about. You know, there's a lot of those going around right now. And when you have people leaving, like the director of the Center on Counterterrorism did a few weeks ago, or getting fired in droves, like the cleansings of the military that Pete Hegseth carried out, including of the nation's top uniformed officer, I think that's a sign that the war might not be going well. By the way, whatever happened to that pilot that they rescued a couple weeks ago, the downed one that we lost 11 planes trying to get back, supposedly? You'd think they'd parade him around a little bit more. Guess not. Trump is well and truly stuck in this Iran disaster. He can't de-escalate because his ego will not allow him to do so. He can't negotiate at this point because the negotiations are predicated on de-escalation. The Iranians have said they're not going to negotiate so long as there is a naval blockade. And if he keeps escalating, Iran has more and more and more leverage. Yes, they will endure a lot of pain, but they will also bring down the entire global economy. And no matter how much Trump and his close circle lash out at the people around him or lie to the public, everyone can see that this is a disaster.
It's crazy how tonight the Trump administration just fired the Secretary of the Navy, and it's effective immediately with no reason given. Now, I know what you were thinking, right? That this is a military story, it's a politics story. Like, what does this have to do with my, normal angles with cyber? And I'm really excited to kind of talk to you about that. Now, John Phelan was the Navy's top civilian, right? He had no prior military service. He was a businessman and a GOP fundraiser who was confirmed just 13 months ago. And tonight, he was fired while the United States Navy is actively blockading Iranian ports. The blockade part 2. This is the middle of a conflict with no transition. It's effective immediately. No way to hand this off to make sure that there's a secure transfer of powers. And this is not an isolated incident, right? Pete Hegseth has now fired over a dozen generals and admirals since taking office. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the chief of the naval operations, the Army chief of staff, and now the Navy secretary. Are you seeing a pattern, right? We are systematically removing the people who run our military during an active war. Here's where the cyber connection comes in, right? Here's where it hits different if you work in the cyberspace. Fleet Cyber Command falls directly under Navy command structure. There's about 16,000 active and reserve sailors and civilians running Navy networks, offensive and defensive cyber operations, signals intelligence, and space. They serve as the Navy component to the U.S. Cyber Command. That chain of command runs through the Chief of Naval Operations, who was already fired, and now through a Navy Secretary position that is vacant tonight. Look, I've talked about this before already on my channel, but this is the same pattern I covered in my NSA and Cybercom video. The leadership vacuum is not just at the top anymore. It's cascading down through every branch of the military that touches cyber operations. I do want to break down the timing a little bit more, right? We are in the middle of a ceasefire with Iran that nobody trusts, right? The Strait is still fully not open, and Iran is still seizing ships, and the Navy is still blockading ports. I mean, the U.S. just shot down a ship. And tonight, we have no confirmed Navy secretary, an acting secretary with no confirmed mandate stepping into a live conflict. And it looks like it's part of the strategy, right? Iran has been exploiting every leadership gap we have created since this has started. I've said it before. When the people responsible for defending your networks and your operations are being swapped out mid-conflict, your adversaries are paying attention. Now, look, I'm going to keep tracking this because, I'm a little bit obsessive, but because every one of these firings is another data point in a pattern that should concern anyone who cares about national security. Follow along. I've been kind of covering this as it's been going on, and I think the next one might be a part 4 because of everything that's going on. There is going to be another part. I didn't intend for this to be a series, but the world just keeps turning, so we'll see how that goes, right? Catch you in the next.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.